Hi, I'm attorney James Betzold, and if you're a new lawyer recently out of law school, or maybe you just passed the bar, where you are now, I once was. I was starting my own law firm right out of law school, and I've got some tips that can help you move things along. I hope you find it helpful. As I was graduating law school, I heard a lot of students say they were going to start their own law firm with a business loan, and then give themselves a paycheck, and then they would just, it would work out from there. That is very optimistic. Though in fairness, optimism is needed to pull this off when you're opening your own firm, especially right out of law school. I can't emphasize enough the importance of hustle in this game. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about debt. But remember, what we're talking about is a tool that you're going to use to help magnify your efforts. Debt is at best a short-term fix, and it's not a blessing. It's also not a curse. It's a tool. Now, in case you didn't go to business school, let me remind you of some of the basics of debt. Debt happens when you get money from a bank or a lender, and you agree to pay them back more than what the amount was that you actually borrowed in the beginning, right? That's what we call interest. You pay interest on the principal of the debt. That's how banks make money. That's how credit card companies make money. This is how loan sharks and check cashing places also make money. It's a legitimate business, but you need to be oh so careful with it. Now, there's some things that it's acceptable and good to use debt for, and those are typically long-term assets or long-term investments. Your education, for example, is a long-term investment. That's why the government has programs to give loans to people to go to school. It's a good idea to invest in something that's going to benefit you long-term. There's other assets, right? Like the purchase of an office building or a house is an acceptable use of debt because it's an asset. It's something that you expect is going to increase in value as well. So you're going to be able to take advantage of the increase in value of that asset, hopefully at a higher rate than is the rate of interest you're paying on your loan. Now, paying yourself is typically not a good use of debt. Like they say in business school, you don't pay short-term expenses with a long-term liability. It's like financing your daily actions on a credit card. It will just bleed into next month and next month and next month, and then you've got this huge pile of debt at a high interest rate that you're not able to pay off. It's a high-risk proposition is what it is. So if you think, I'm just going to get a business loan and pay myself, it better be a very minimal amount, like just to keep your lights on and to keep your bills paid so you don't starve to death. It should not be your plan because that's not free money. It's actually costing you more than if you're just getting paid from clients. But in order to launch a business, many people do require the use of a business loan or some outside funding. This can come in a number of forms, right? You could go to the Small Business Association and request a business loan. If you're riddled with student debt, you may not qualify for much. Some other common sources of funds are friends and family, a local bank or credit union. They may extend you what's called a line of credit, which is essentially a credit card without the credit card. And lastly, and hopefully never, personal credit cards. Although, it's funny, when I went, before I went to law school in my undergrad, to the University of Michigan, and one of the things that we learned there from some of our professors is that a lot of people had started their businesses on credit cards. Hopefully they're not personal. Hopefully you can get a business credit card for that with your business tied to it for liability. But hopefully you don't have to do that because interest rate on a credit card is like 30%. Interest rate on a line of credit might be something like 5 or 7% or less now, especially since the economy that we're in. So definitely explore other options before resorting to credit cards. Borrowing money from friends and family is tricky. You're risking putting that relationship in jeopardy just because of money. So if this is your only option and you do decide to use it, get it in writing. You want to establish those expectations. If you have a really good month and you're paying your payments back as agreed, you don't want anybody to be upset with you because you're going on a short vacation or a trip somewhere, or you did something financially that they may criticize because they were the ones who financed you with that money anyway. And if they're not getting paid back and you're not fulfilling the terms of your written agreement, there's accountability. So just be careful doing that. Avoid it when possible. And I've also seen attorneys who use the bank, use a line of credit that they get from the bank. And again, this is much like a credit card, but usually at a lower interest rate. The bank's going to want to at least see your business plan if you don't have bank statements that you can show them. Pretty iffy for a startup that they're going to give you a line of credit, but once you bring in some money, it may be worth talking to them. Talk to them right away if you need the option. See what's available. But I've seen attorneys who do that, and their justification is, well, in case there's times where I'm making less money, then I'll just borrow money from that, and then I'll pay it back when things are good. But what that can lead to is complacency. If there's no motivation to keep you going because you're thinking, hey, I might actually starve, I better go innovate and find another way to get new clients. If you don't have that push, because you're still collecting money no matter what and your bills are getting paid, that could be a negative reinforcement for you. It's just something to be aware of. Don't get caught in that trap. Don't feel too comfortable, especially if you're living on borrowed money. And because it's a line of credit, it's like a loan. At any time, the bank can close it, or they can force you to repay it. They can say, no, you got to repay it now. And additionally, since you have a lot of debt because of student loans and other things, you may only qualify for a smaller amount at this time. And they may require a personal guarantee or security for it. Like if you own a home or if you have a mortgage on a home, they may require that as security. You always want to avoid giving a personal guarantee whenever possible on any sort of business loan. Now, since you're starting out, you may not have any other options. But for example, I remember we were leasing a copier, and the copier company said, no, we want you to put a personal guarantee on it, so this and that and the other thing. I was like, no. I'd been in practice a few years already, so we had the flexibility to say no. But they didn't require it. So you have options. All right. So that's business debt, right? The best debt is a debt that's paid off. The best way to manage debt is by paying it off. So if you're going into debt to run or begin or start your business, just make sure you've got a clear roadmap to profitability so you can start paying that back as soon as possible. And honestly, when you're indebted, you are in servitude to that promissory note. You need to pay that money back. It needs to get paid like for example, your rent. You got to pay your rent before you pay yourself. You got to pay your mortgage before you pay yourself. You got to pay that money back before you're taking extra money home. So keep those things in mind. Use debt wisely and constantly hustle. I mean, do whatever you can within the limits of the law and professional responsibility to do the best job you can, get new clients, get them to spread the word, because you can succeed in your own law firm. And it's a level of freedom where at some point you'll get there where you're like, you know what? I feel like I don't have to work on Wednesdays now, and I'm going to take Wednesdays in golf or something that you like. It's a level of freedom that is really wonderful. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. There's a million ways to do it, but the one thing you need to pay really close attention to is if you're going into debt, get a clear way to pay that off. All right, I'm attorney James Betzold. Hope you have a great day.